Welcome to Two Promoters, One Pod. I'm James Scarlett, and this is Gavin McAnally. How you doing, Gav?
I'm doing pretty well. I always like it. I always like it when you introduce because you bring the listener in with you. Like, welcome to. I just jumped straight into how you getting on, mate. We go again.
I prefer it when you go. I prefer it with your starts. Let's have an audience vote. Who should start the podcast? I think you are clearly the most professional.
So, how have things been?
Good, mate. Apart from my roof, which is currently leaking in the room I'm sat in, things are good. Yeah. No police harassment this week or in the last couple of days, so that's good. I keep calling it police harassment rather than reporting harassment to the police.
Reporting
Way more
harassment
dramatic.
to the police, not
Yeah.
you fucking sitting at a local cop shop firing in bottles.
Yeah. But yeah, things are good. Last night I went to a gathering of friends in Cheltenham and I was surrounded by 2,000 trees people, all the people that help us set up and do various other things. And everyone was like, we're now at that time where it's like summer is coming.
Yeah.
Like it always seems so long away. And it's just like the festival is like a distant thing where it's not real. And now everyone's like, summer's coming. Have you bought your new tent? Have you booked your caravan? What
Yeah.
beer are we having this year? Everyone's properly like into how many Scotch eggs do we need to order for festival setup? It's like the important shit is now being
Yeah.
discussed.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling quite excited.
Getting excited with that. Yeah. So, well, I suppose if the dripping the drip coming through on your side does make it to the listener, James is not in a dungeon for those that listen to Spotify. It's just some renovations in his house.
I'm going to put my
Like,
builder in a dungeon, mate. That's what I'm going to do. Yes, if you can hear the dripping, sorry.
what a professional setup. I'm looking forward to doing these live ones when it's just you and I, not having to worry about Zoom, microphone
Yeah,
volumes and drips happening in the background. So, aye, what we're talking about this week, riders, and it's been a lot of fun, a lot of fun prepping for this. I was in the loft earlier, I was digging out, I couldn't believe I found the original riders, the first ones for 2005.
amazing.
Pulled up some stuff off our old memory sticks that I had, so it was a lot of fun prepping for this. And aye, we'll get in about that, but as usual, we start with some questions.
We do. Um, so Nina Saidi, sorry about the pronunciation, says if you had to pick any music industry job that wasn't running your festivals, which job would that be and why?
Now, Nina is the vocalist in, I don't know how you pronounce it, but Lowen, Lowen, who are currently supporting Greenlawn from about the UK.
Oh,
So,
right, they're signed to Church Road, yeah?
yeah, so
Yeah.
hi Nina, and thanks for the question. Strangely enough, when we're talking about riders and backstage later, there's a story involving Nina who took full advantage of her AAA pass last year when she was doing vocals for one song with Kurukuma. So, aye, we'll get back to Nina later. But for this question, what would I do? Tour managing is something I definitely want to do at least once. I want to do at least once. I want to be on the road with a band playing my part. I know without doubt, 'cause I don't like airports and I don't like travelling that much, that there'd be bits that I absolutely hated, but there would be bits that I'd also really enjoy, I think. And I think I've got the personality. I mean, I've met a lot of tour managers and we will do a podcast about tour managers. So I understand that side of the job. And I think I'd make a pretty decent tour manager. So that, and if not that, probably something press related, but again, with bands. I mentioned previously in a pod, I feel that bands promote themselves really poorly on the road. It's the usual same generic shite. They put a picture of them at the end of their set, sort of crowd in the background, and then there's nothing kind of done. They don't go to cities and lean into the culture of that city and go and get a video that morning with, I don't know, a local delicacy or at a landmark and remind people live at that point, like later tonight, we will be in your city. So don't see the post, the completely pointless post we're going to put out later saying, thank you, Birmingham, after they've already been and say, shit, if I knew you were in Birmingham, I would have came.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a lot of ideas in that front, but again, when you're the kind of bands you're dealing with, probably the money's not there. I mean, they take me out the road for me to do it properly, I'd also need like a videographer, sort of cameraman type. So then you're talking some serious cost day in, day out in bands that don't have those costs. But aye, that's the two sort of roles I could see myself playing if I wasn't in promoting. Because clearly, as we've established, it's not going to be the guitar player in a death metal band.
Could you no, could you be trusted as a tour manager? Because I always think tour managing is like when I say be trusted, I mean not to be the one that's the last one to bed, and then the next day everyone's like, "What the fuck's going on? I don't know. Where's Gav? Don't know."
Yeah, I might
Last
not
time
have
we saw
mentioned
him,
it,
he was
James,
climbing a bridge.
but it was a daily newspaper editor. You know, it's not always taps off and jumping on speakers.
No,
And
I appreciate that you're a father and you can be sensible, but when you're on, I always think on tour just it encourages, if you've got it in you, which I think probably both me and you have. I'm drinking a nice little rum right now.
I,
It encourages, lively
absolutely,
behaviour.
but I suppose you need to go. And don't get me wrong, I've worked with dozens and dozens of tour managers who like to get on it even more than you and I, and more often than you and I, because I like a drink like the next guy's reaching, but I'm a guy once I get a bit of a hangover, I need my break, and also I'm not the kind of guy who can just get up unless I'm on hold and just start on it either. So I'd like to think so. Don't get me wrong. I would not be. I just would never do that. If it wasn't fun, if I wasn't part of the touring experience with the band, I wouldn't want to go in the band with some sort of dry ride or drips. You know what I mean? That are just going to be like, right, let's get to the next hotel and get to our bed. I'd want to experience a wee bit. I'm not talking about let's go fucking Motley Crue here, but I mean, I would
Yeah.
like to experience a bit of life in the road if I was going to go and do that. Otherwise, well, I don't suppose I would do that job at all. So, aye. But I like your confidence in me there, James. I mean, held down a challenging career and built damnation with 3 kids, but you think I'm going to get under a bridge in a week?
It's just the road, mate. It's the road
Well,
encouraging you.
what about
Um,
yourself?
well, look, if it was a realistic answer or an unrealistic answer, let's start with the unrealistic one. I mean, I would have loved to have been in a band that toured. And when I was younger, I wish I'd done more, particularly in my 20s. I wish I'd like been in more bands, written more songs, and toured more. But now I wouldn't want to do that now because I think I'm not roughing it now. But it would be nice to be in like a massive band. Imagine just like being in like Queens of Stone Age and just like, I'm not suggesting for a second that I have any of the ability for that, but imagine being in Queens of Stone Age. It'd be great. You're like a band of musos jamming on stage every night, living in relative luxury, earning a nice little wedge of money, and everyone loves you. I think I could, you not fancy that? That'd be good, right?
Yeah,
I would do that.
are you suggesting being in the band though? I mean, like James, we've
Yeah,
already this.
I'm in the band. They asked me what job do you want to do. I'm telling you, I want to be in fucking Queens of Stone Age.
Right, okay.
But
One that you're not in Queens of the Stone Age. Is there any other bit for industry?
well, I was a pretty average artist manager, as no doubt any of the bands I managed will attest to. So I wouldn't do that again. I mean, I really wouldn't do that again. I reckon I'd be a good booking agent though. I quite fancy a go at booking agent, but I don't know if, because the problem is in the music industry, most jobs are office jobs, aren't they? Tour manager is too much, not it's too much fucking craziness and too much sleeping on floors. And booking agent is too much sat behind a computer. But I fancy, I reckon I could do that. I quite like the idea of finding bands and helping them out.
I wouldn't mind the booking agent bit at all. I don't have a boss ever again. You know, it's been a while since I had a boss, and
Yeah.
even when I had a boss, being an editor at the time, she wasn't a particularly controlling boss either. So it's probably been about 10, 15 years since I've properly reported to someone. So when like being a booking agent, you've got two choices. You go and join an agency and say this is what talents have got to offer, and then you're probably gonna have a row of bosses, or you just try and go out yourself, and then you're not gonna go into that and just try and poach other people's bands. So then you're starting like literally at the bottom trying to become a bit. And I imagine that. I mean, you're now that person who's begging the likes of us to say, look, come on, listen to this band, send in the press pack with a giant picture.
But actually, do you know what I've been meaning to tell you this, talking to booking agents. I did tell this booking agent, Hayden, that I was going to tell this story. But this week, we were talking about me booking one of his acts, and he said to me, and I was like, I'm out of budget. What do you need? And he's like, it's 800 quid. So I was like, great. I sent him an offer, 800 quid. And he replied immediately to say, Oh no, what I meant was the costs for the artist were 800 quid. It's actually going to be 1,200 quid. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You've reeled me in. I mean, this is like the oldest agent trick in the book, Hayden. You've reeled me in, and then it's suddenly double, it's gone up 50%. Mate, what do you think about that, Gav?
I mean, we need a completely off the record in the pub conversation about Hayden between you and I.
We love Hayden, but
The dances that
mate,
that boy makes us do, unbelievable. Aye, so booking agent is right. Okay, if I can't get my job, I can't lose my mind out on the road with a bunch of fun folk, and no one's able to do the press. Then okay, I will. You and I will start a wee booking agent. I tell you what, get the band some decent fucking bookings. That's for sure because they'll be playing 3 decent festivals
yeah,
right
we've
off
got
the
three
bat.
festivals. Whether you fit them or not, you're playing them.
Right. Stuart, talking of press, Stuart Lucas. Now, Stuart Lucas is a long time Damnation fan, and he writes for Rockflesh, I believe, among maybe other publications, but definitely for Rockflesh. And he's an all round decent guy who's active on our communities. He's saying, as a writer of reviews, how much attention do you pay to them in press coverage, and how important are they for building the buzz about your festivals?
Well, for me, there's sort of two sides to that question. I'm not sure if Stuart intended it this way, but I pay a lot of attention to press when I'm booking artists. It's like super important to me what people are saying because I think the thing about press is they see a lot of acts, so they do tend to have an idea of what is and isn't good. Um, so that I think is super important if bands are getting decent press, whether it's blogs or magazines or whatever. In terms of festivals, like it's been really important. So we at some point back in the distant past, we took on a press team, good as gold. Matt and Haley run our press for us, and they've been a massive part of like establishing the festival. Not I'm not even talking about establishing the festival in the public eyes, establishing 2000 Trees in particular in the music industry's eyes as like a really important thing in the calendar. I think the press have been massively important to that. And sure that they are getting it out to the audience as well, and that's all great. But really legitimizing 2000 Trees as a major player in the UK festival industry is I give Good as Gold a massive part of the credit in that. And so I think it's been really important for us. You know, whether it's being covered by Radio 1 or Kerrang or Rock Sound or a billion other blogs and podcasts and all sorts. You know, I'm doing interviews, you know, all the time at the moment, like probably 1 or 2 a week. And it's all coming through Matt and Haley, and it all just establishes the festivals further, I think. So yeah, I think they're really important, reviews and any sort of press, really. And actually, sorry, the last thing I'll say is when I first started getting into small festivals, my first one was Truck, and I read about Truck in Kerrang like about a year and a half before I went to my first Truck. So I do think reviews of your festival are a way of like just like the punters being like, oh man, that 2000 Trees sounds really great. That Damnation really sounds like something I want to check out. And eventually you go over the line and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy a ticket.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. I, I wish I was as positive about the whole situation as you are, and maybe there's a bit of because we haven't had that in Damnation, even despite its size now in this scene, isn't properly legitimised in the circuit. I mean, people know, but definitely not in the scale that you. I mean, when you hear about a road burn and Inferno, I mean, there's no way to slice it in smaller events and like, just smaller capacity events in Damnation. They have a bigger reach, a bigger audience. Um, Maryland Death Fest, another one that's got like a huge reputation all the way across the states. Now you look at Maryland Death Fest. I mean, the main stage looks a wee bit like our second stage. You know what I mean? So maybe there's something to that. And if we had gone in harder with the press angle and courted more press attention, maybe Damnation would have a bigger name. But then again, fucking Damnation still sold out all those years too. So it's a difficult one to balance. I find that I don't know. Like, so who's the biggest player in the market? Kerrang. I mean, if Kerrang Rock Sound, Metal Hammer, everyone on that given day share our announcement at the same time as we share it, it doesn't add to ticket sales. It's just that's just the truth of the matter. I know it might, as you say, a year and a half down the line, people like have that drip effect. People say, "Oh, Damnation does sound good." No, yet Damnation does sound good. Then maybe somewhere down the line they do pull the trigger, but it's not something that I've seen. I wish I felt the same. I wish I felt the same positivity as you do, James. And maybe it would have been maybe Damnation would have a bit more legitimacy in the metal scene and have a bigger reputation or a far more reaching reputation in the metal scene if we had gone in harder on the press. I think my bubble's just a bit burst with the whole that industry because it's an industry that I came from, and 20 years ago when national newspapers sold an absolute ton and they were important at the same time as the magazines back there. When Kerrang used to tell you that funeral for a friend were the next big thing, that's what became the next big thing because Kerrang said it's just the print press, or even the internet press now has been diluted so much that everyone with an internet connection on Facebook kind of plays their own bit and everyone's just, I don't know, a bit deflated. But oh, your answers actually gave me a bit more food for thought about, you know what, we probably could and should do more to quote press, and we should do more to get on the right side of press. Although I would still argue back that we did sell out bunches of Damnations without any press. And if Kerrang, Rock Sound, Metal Hammer all shared an announcement at the same time as we shared it or not, it doesn't really make a great deal of difference to the ticket sales in that day, that given day or week. So, aye, Stuart, I appreciate all the press. I appreciate your work. I appreciate the fact you guys like yourselves and Razor's Edge and Distorted Sound and all these types of outlets, including and Kerrang as well. I'm not trying to say that Kerrang have always been great to Damnation. The Metal Hammer always send a team to Damnation when we'll get podcasts coming. So I appreciate all the work. I mean, I get it, I understand it. It was also my background. I've reviewed 100 metal festivals, music festivals over the years, and I enjoyed doing that as well. So I know the work goes into it. I appreciate people taking the time to cover Damnation. I just wish I was a bit more positive about my answer 20 years ago would be very different from my answer that is now, because I think 20 years ago, when you got those column inches in some of these magazines or on the fanzines, it really made a difference. Where there's so much noise now, even the big players, it's difficult to get through.
Yeah, it's complicated, and when you're saying like, oh, Kerrang have posted your announcement on their social media, that they might be doing 5 different social media posts that day, so it's definitely a different world. Like I grew up from the age of 12 reading Kerrang and like Raw magazine. There's basically 2 magazines. I got all my music news from
Yeah.
them, and as far as I was concerned, there was nothing happening in the world unless it was in those 2 magazines.
I
Whereas now
totally
it's just
agree.
like you're fucking flooded with stuff. So it is very different. And that's the problem, of course, when you're trying to do sales and marketing for festivals, you're just like spraying around everything you can because you don't really know what's sticking with people,
Yeah.
and you don't really have any good data on what people are. So you just got to do everything, I think.
And it's definitely important to, I mean, as you say, that word of mouth. I mean, like at the minute, I mean, I am seeing the product of this podcast. I'm seeing Damnation fans posting that they are buying 2000 Trees tickets because of this podcast. So it is important that any way you can do it, be a podcast through fanzine, webzines, through the traditional press. I just, at the same time, I don't want to come on here and just because the easy answer and the happiest answer back would be like, absolutely brilliant, love the press. And I think that when they say jump, the crowds go how high. It's just, that's not, I'd rather just be honest about it and say that's not the reality as I see it when it comes to even when we get the press that we do appreciate getting.
Okay, so Adam Robertshaw asks, how many bands have actually made it onto Damnation ATG trees from their mates or fans tagging them in posts on the forums?
So, so there's 2 sides to this question. How you mean it? Like, if it's what I think he means is go and flood the Damnation
Yeah.
official account or forum with this, and then suddenly you see, let's pick a random like butcher killer, butcher killer, butcher killer, butcher killer, butcher killer. Like, never. Never. As a point of
Yeah.
principle,
It's the opposite. It's the
it's the
fucking opposite.
opposite.
Yeah, you're doing the disservice. You're making them not get booked. Stop
Because at
doing
that
that.
point, it's not even like a Butcher Killer become the fucking greatest band you've ever heard. It's like once you admit defeat one type of that, your entire social media is good. Like every band just go, but all you need to do is go into the forum and get 71 of your pals who
Yeah.
no interest in Damnation. We Auntie Mary, who's never heard of Damnation before, suddenly posting Butcher Killer fucking 6 times on your forum,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And if you
So
go to Butcher Killer's Facebook page, you can guarantee it's them going, "Hey guys, please go to Damnation and fucking request us." It's like, mate, no one. That's not going to work, is it? I think that's probably obvious. I don't want to laugh at people, but that is obvious.
yeah, no, it never works. If you mean it in a slightly more honest manner, i.e., you have mates of bands saying, "Oh, by the way," I mean, like fucking, we talk about the Celestial Birds. There was a PR fee as well. You get people who know that band and Hidden Mothers, and on your other bands, your Celestial Sanctuaries, and even Svalbard employed to serve bigger bands in the scene. That you've got friends of those bands who are like, "Oh, it'd be really great if you booked Hidden Mothers. Oh, I'd love to see Hidden Mothers," and it's coming from a genuine place. Hidden Mothers haven't said, "Everybody rush to the forum," and then you just get this 42 comments in a row that suddenly people are shouting and tagging this band. And it's usually outlandish, like, if you don't book Butcher Killer, you're an idiot. It's the way it comes across. I would buy my ticket tomorrow if Butcher Killer were on it. Like, mate, you can
Yeah.
fucking point out Damnation on a map, you know.
Yeah. Did you not say that Coffin Mulch got through because of
But that
something?
was but we sparked that.
Yeah.
We had a slot come up that we weren't expecting to come up, and we basically said, right, okay, it's an opening slot. Let's put it to the forum. That's the reason these people are there. And that was 300 or 400 people who are into the underground death metal scene in the UK giving their opinion. So there might have been no odd band that said, "Oh, go and jump on and do it," but you could see that Coffin Mulch did not have a post in any of their social media saying, "Go to
No.
Damnation and do that." So that was one of those ones where people who knew, and clearly probably our pals at Coffee Mulch as well, were asking for that. But we sparked that. We asked people on that unusual circumstance to say, right, okay, well, this is a particular slot. If you get a grind or a death or a black metal band that you really love that aren't going to cost 10 grand, then let us know.
Yeah. And look, me and Gav spend a lot of time on social media where I'm not like necessarily counting how many times a band is mentioned, but you're kind of aware that there's certain bands keep getting mentioned. It's like, wow, I should really book for this band. And there's sometimes those bands are small and sometimes they're medium and you just don't know them. And even like last week I recommended Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum on the pod, and that they're not a band that I really knew, even though they do have a fan base. They just passed me by, and I've started to see them getting mentioned, not just as a book them for ATG thing, just on various
Yeah.
forums and groups and stuff. And that does have an impact because you're
And
trying to be sort of ahead of the other festivals and like get the most interesting lineup and like
and that's a point as well. It's not just about what's coming. If you're doing your job properly and you're out there and you're going through other people's social medias and Facebook groups and reading opinions or back reviews even from a Rock Flesh or a Razor's Edge or a Distorted Sound, and you're hearing these bands or they're getting, that's probably a good point of view, that not for Damnation to be like helps us sell a ticket, but maybe you're seeing something said about. Then you get that's coming from an agent, and then it's coming from a manager, and then it's coming from other promoters, you know, and then that all starts to bubble into something, and you get these bands. I mean, like Greenlong a couple of years ago, or a Svalbard a couple of years before that. Like these bands, as you've said in this podcast before, you're just not going to miss. They're going to be
yeah.
in your radar at some point, even if ultimately that band is not to your liking. It's still going to be like that. They've got something here, and there is a genuine fan base that if I book them, people will come to see them, and that's ultimately what we're aiming for.
Yeah, and you've got like so there's a few different types of booking, isn't there? There's the ones that are obvious up and coming Svalbard pupil slicery type things that you're not going to miss if you're me and you. But there's also like Russian Circles Armin Ra, where every 3 years I'm booking them. They're just going to come around because they're like the quintessential like arctangent bands. Book them. Try not to book them every year, but fairly regularly. But other than that, you're really trying to discover some new stuff that surprises people that they're like, fucking hell, I discovered this band at Damnation and they're just amazing. And like, and you're trying to be ahead of the game on that. So I'm constantly just sat on Facebook or wherever trying to discover some new bands, but it's not your mate. Your mates cannot help you in this regard.
Your mates cannot win this
No,
fight for you.
no, they really can't.
So, John Simpson is a two-parter here. So, what's the best bit of advice either of you have given each other, and not about where to get cheap towels?
um, well, I don't think I've ever given you any advice. I've got some advice for you if you'd like it. I mean, we talk about band fees a lot. We do give each other advice on like how to deal with certain agents. Oh, I haven't dealt with this person before. What are they like, etc., etc. But just going back to a previous question, you may or may not want this advice, but I think you are undoubtedly the best placed person to write a press release for Damnation. But the one thing that I learned about press is that our press guy can send a WhatsApp message to Dan P. Carter from Radio 1 because they're mates.
Yeah.
And he knows the editor of Kerrang, they're mates. And Hayley that runs our press also, she is like mates with their editor, Roxanne. And they're all at this little, it's like a little sort of London-centric circuit of people, and they all hang out. They all go to gigs. And I feel like that is the thing that, because when we started our press, Andy, who's one of the Trees organisers, was a journalist, but doesn't have those connections. And it doesn't really matter how hard Andy or Gav or anyone works. You can never beat the fact that Matt and Hayley have been doing rock press in the UK for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Let's say 15 years.
And to be
20,
fair,
whatever it is, but
I mean, I should know better in all the years because there's two very different jobs there. There is journalism and being a writer,
yeah,
reporter, and there is PR. And they're two very, when you go to study those, they're two different subjects. And for my entire life, I had people who were in PR either phoning me as a reporter or definitely phoning me continuously as an editor. And their job was to get your attention, be it for the local hospital, NHS trust, or the cops, or the fire service. You know, it was like, so I understand that. And that is not a side of the job. I mean, I'd be terrible at it. I mean, look at me. Listen to me. This is how I am. I mean, there is no other, I don't have a filter. So I'm terrible at PR. Absolutely shocking at it. So, aye. I get what you mean, and I totally agree. It's maybe me pulling my head out the sand a wee bit, even though I know exactly, and I already knew exactly what the kind of, and say, like, okay, just because I don't believe that somebody could write a damnation press release better than me, that has nothing to do with the fact that I need those people then to take it to the other people that it should be going to, and then spreading that word. And then also, because it is a backpatting kind of industry, and it is a wee bit of a incestuous wee industry where people do like to look after each other a bit, and you start to get, it's not important to me to get into like the awards circuit, and I don't even know if we can at the time of the year we are, but having your name in that mix continuously, it's another one of those ones like, oh, Damnation, I wonder what that is. Oh, Damnation's mentioned again. It's like, aye, and without having that type of PR, you're unlikely. I mean, because a lot of things, and notice, I don't know if I should say that, but
come
no,
on, say it.
it's just like a lot of these things, a lot of people in a lot of these categories aren't there on merit. They're just not. And
Name names, Gav.
so, aye, that's all I've got to say about that. I can't remember what the question was. The advice. So, what advice do I think? Aye, it's mainly the fees, isn't it? It's mainly the, aye. Am I getting the piss taken out of me here? Like, you know what I mean? It's, I've been offered this, but this guy's asking for 10 grand. Did you know? Tell me the last time that he played last year for like 5 grand. I mean, it's like, I don't mind a band's fee going up, and sometimes you will pay more just because it suits, you need it more than them. But aye, it's a big help when you know, because again, there's no menu, so you're a bit like, if this, am I the one that's wrong? Is that, does this band get 15 grand absolutely everywhere, and I've just completely misread the situation? Yeah. And then you speak to yourself, you're like, no, they played for 3, and you're like, right, okay, no, I never misread the situation. This age, you just try to take a piss. So
yeah, absolutely. And but also, for me, the fact that you understand Arctangent, you've been to every year, right? Is that right? So you understand Arctangent as well as most people, probably anyone. So when I ring you up and say, would the Sun's Journey Through the Night work? that's not just a conversation about how much should I pay them. It's really a conversation about is this an appropriate booking? I've never seen them live. Tell me what you think.
Mate,
And that is like really valuable.
the fucking pressure on this booking.
Yeah, better be good, mate.
I'm gonna be sitting in the side of this tent, sweating dripping, like, please fill up. 15 people going to watch this band that I've said, hi James, so they'll go do a storm at tangent.
It'll be good. It'll be great. Always is.
Part two of John's question. Would you ever do a pod and chat with other promoters, either international or some of your friendly UK festivals like Outbreak? How does he know we're friendly with Outbreak?
I mean, you're friendly with all festivals. I don't think I'm that friendly with many. You're
I'm
way more friendly than I am.
I'm friendly with festivals that aren't friendly with me. Like,
Yeah.
all right, guys, let's go and promote the lineup. I'm like, I fucking hope that nation dies soon.
I think is the answer to this that we're up for getting other festivals on, but they have to be up for us asking them the questions that, because we're trying to deal with like real shit and be really honest on this, aren't we? Like super honest. So we're going to ask them the 3 questions they don't want to be asked, and if they're up for that, then great, let's do it. Not in a way of like, not in a
gotcha, not at all.
No.
Not a poo, because we're not. You're trying to build everyone up. I mean, you're not. There's not a bit like, oh, let's get you in fucking trouble with some manager or agent or burn a bridge for you.
Yeah.
It's not about that. But it's also, this isn't the reason why people are wildly into this. The people that do listen to it are wildly into it is because it's something different. It's like, we're not just here trying to sell you a ticket. Ultimately we are, but we're telling like, we're having a conversation open time, and if we are going to have another festival organised, it has to be in the same sort of good faith. It has to be like, okay, I'm not here to just to answer it whatever. We're like, so tell me about this year's lineup and tell me the 3 favourite sets you're going to get for this, and why did you choose to do it in Birmingham? You know what I mean? That's not what's happening here. It's like, no. Mate, tell me about time an agent's absolutely screwed you over.
Yeah.
And if you don't name the agent in the band, that's fine. But if you do, that's also fine.
Yeah. So yeah, any festivals that want to do it can give us a shout, and we'll let's talk.
But we can do. I know. Also, that's not a sales pitch. I don't. The inbox absolutely filled at every festival that's happening. Like, aye, let's get me in front of thousands of your listeners so I can sell some tickets. You know. So, aye, if you get something to offer, you get an interesting story to offer. Aye, great. I'm happy to. We've from pod 1, we've said we're happy to be shaped with what folk want to listen to. So, and we're happy to sit and have conversation with people if, as I say, it's going to be done with the same level of transparency that we're hoping to offer on this. So, aye, getting us into our topic of the day, which is going to be riders. Rich Credentials, who's a long-time damnation goer, is asking a rider question: what's the most expensive, ridiculous, easiest item you've not been able to get for someone's rider? So we'll get into that and answer Rich's questions after a short ad break for Lou's Brews, who I believe is currently off on holiday. I saw some social media stuff where they had some sauces boxed up and they said, catch you later, I won't be available for May. So I hope you're listening to this one, Lou. Sitting at the side of a beach with some margarita and enjoying your time, pal. If you want to make his holiday any better, go to his site, louisbrews.co.uk. Use pod 15. In fact, don't use pod 15. Just buy it full price. You'll probably be fucking delighted. And get yourself some sauces. If you got a story to tell them, you've got a weekly update on what's happening with your hot sauces.
Well, I've eased off the really, really hot one. I'm just like traumatized by it. So no, there'll be I'll give you an update shortly. There's a new creeper one to be opened by me.
So, slightly more gentle creeper one to be opened. Right, good. So yes, in all seriousness, look, enjoy your break, mate, and tell us what you want us to say when you come back, because we are quickly running out of hot sauce things to say. So, riders, James, you are the table setter. What is a rider?
Well, so we have had a couple of people say on this podcast that you don't dumb it down enough, and sometimes you're talking about shit and we don't know what you're talking about. So before we talk about riders, let's just say that usually a rider would be split into 2 parts, and that is catering and technical. So we're here today to chat about catering riders. Technical rider is the sort of sound and lighting and backline spec of a band and all the other things like security, and there's a bunch of stuff involved in the technical side, which I will touch on a few times
I
today.
mean,
But
and also if we really do get nerdy, if this podcast gets to the level that we can do a fucking episode in the technical riders, I suppose we could. But let's try and keep it jovial for a bit.
yeah, and we could go there. I might sub myself out for someone who actually understands it. But yeah, today's about catering, which is basically what the bands are requesting to eat and drink while they're at the festival. So yeah, and it's quite a hot topic in how do you find catering riders, Gal?
Do you know what? I don't know, because when you talk about these two riders, one is the Bible, one is the absolutely do not fuck around with this. Every character on this sheet of paper means something. Read it again, and make sure it's going to be there. And the other one's a fucking a Santa's wish list. You know what I mean? Of varying degrees of nonsense. And aye, that's the way that I view technical riders like they are the most important thing in the world, and I view catering riders like, aye, very good, mate. You will get some of that, but you better be goddamn opeth if you want to get almost all of it, because otherwise it's not happening. And you get £200 bands that show up with riders that are £2,000, and you get 15 grand bands that show up with riders that are 200. There is no, like everything else in this industry, there's no rhyme or reason to someone's catering rider, like how they've come to be, how they've thought that that's going to be manageable. Some of them show up and they've got touring parties, even though there's four in the band, the touring parties 15, and they want £25, £30 buyouts for everybody of the 15. And sometimes four people in the band show up and they want a tenner each. You know what I mean? And the two bands can
Yeah.
literally be the same level of band. So is that your experience of it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes when we have bad rider experiences, I'm being punished for when I was a manager, because I wrote a rider once for one of the bands I was managing, and they didn't drink beer, and I put 4 local IPAs on their rider, and basically they would come back off tour with a shit ton of beer for me, and actually now I look at it and I'm like, you prick, why were you doing that to the promoter? They're so nice to have given that to you, but you're just taking that's costing someone money. So, I mean, they are wild. The catering riders vary wildly in length. They vary wildly in how extravagant they are. It's so like the longest one we've got. I was looking through all ours this week. Frank Carter's rider is 37 pages long. That's catering and technical. 37 pages. Now it's actually not an extravagant rider, so I've got nothing bad to say about it. But these things are like, it's like War and Peace. It's a proper read. And what you're not clear on is some bands want every single bit of it, and it's not negotiable. Swans. I mean, fucking Swans. The Swans want every single thing, right? Everything. And then some bands are just like trying their luck a bit, and it's just like, here's a crazy list. And then others, like I want to shout out Anti-Flag for having the most punk rock nice rider I've ever read, because it's just like, this is what 4 normal people could consume in a day. Why don't you give us that? Like,
Yeah.
because every rider is like a mad amount of booze, a mad amount of food. You could never drink it and eat it in a day. It's absolutely ridiculous. I want to give an award for the highest towels. Eagles of Death Metal would require 30 large bath towels for showers and 20 black hand towels for stage. 50 towels. 50 towels. 50.
I've probably had a few in the 30 range. I've never had 50.
Somebody should high five Eagles of Death Metal. 50 towels. Fair play. So it's all a negotiation though, because you have to basically then, you get the ride and you have to go back and speak to the band and be like, do you really need, I mean, what are your absolute essentials? Yeah, it's tricky.
So at the very start, so my good friend Luke Bell, who previous tour manager for fucking everybody, Machine Head, God forbid, Life Agony, now works production for like some Red Hot Chili Peppers and Florence Machine. So a guy who's ball deep in the industry. And back when we first started, he played he was a major, he was like a mentor. He was like that guy you could go to. Like is this taking the piss? Is this taking the piss? And almost always like, yes, all of that is taking the piss. And you'll probably find this for the next 20 years, Gavin, that this is how the industry is. And he would be like, I'd talk to him about riders right back at the very start, 2005 and then 2006. And I'd say, look, uh, what's the situation with this? Why is this band that are £200 asking for like £2 grand? Is this like, is it you're contractually obliged? I mean, it sounds like it's all legal sounding documents when they come out. But is it? Because look, Gavin, when it comes to the festivals as well, you need to understand there's never like a tour manager will never. There's never taken enough for a tour manager. They will take, and we were going to do an episode on tour managers because they're very unique characters and again, wildly different in their approach. But he was saying, look, if you realise that if a band's worth 10 grand, right, and a festival's offering them 25 grand, you don't go, oh, that's really good. We're getting 15 grand more than what we'd normally get. You send them the big guns rider. That's how we put it. You send them the big guns rider because you know that there's a chance that they're going to give you
They've
the
got
Grey
more
Goose
money than sense. The
Grey Goose vodka
yeah.
instead of the fucking grants you were going to drink. They're going to get you the champagne instead of the prosecco. So you send them the big guns right and you go like, right, okay, that's alarming. So and any promoter out there, don't think you're going to appease a tour manager, like because a good seasoned tour manager will just take and take and take. And I've got great stories about we'll tell that tour manager episode about when I realised that myself in 2007, the creators tour manager. And the other version of that was another tour manager, a mutual friend of ours, who, when you're touring locally, like when you're going city to city instead of a festival, what you'll get is an 80-20 split, i.e., the profit at the other side of when it's all said and done, the promoter gets 20%, the band gets 80%. So if you sell out, there's a chance that the band that might have been in a 10 grand guarantee could end up with 13 or 14 grand. He told me that if the band know it's going to sell out, an expensive rider can get slashed from like £1,000 to £200 because in their heads are like there's a chance of getting the best part of £800 back in their pocket. But the sad part of that is if they know it's not going to sell out and there's no money for them to be made on our side, they're going to get the guarantee. It's a remain with a full rider, which ultimately just means they're digging a bigger hole for the promoter to have to deal with. So that's the world you're
That's
working
right.
in,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. And tour managers are, listen, I'm sure you get, but maybe one day we'll get a tour manager on here and they'll tell you the horror stories of why they're so battle hardened and why they do even treat the good promoters that way. But ultimately, it's a fucking dog eat dog world and they will take what they can get.
Well, and the thing I would always highlight to people is that I'm in. I say this quite often on this podcast, but I'm in a field, right? So you want 7 different local cheeses and 2 types of bread and some hummus and carrots and whatever else, and I'm in a field, right? So your platter of food is quite complicated in a hot field, and is that really appropriate? It's that's a touring rider, not a festival rider. So it's quite. I mean, it'd be better, maybe if I give you an example that would really um, explain how complicated these things can get. So this is from one lead singer of a band that played at Arctangent. I'm not going to tell you which band it was. This is what it says. In his own private dressing room, please provide a large piece of fresh ginger, 4 ripe lemons, 1 jar of honey, a kettle for making tea functioning, a sharp metal knife, no plastic, for slicing ginger and lemons, a large spoon, a cutting board or large plate, a pint glass. He makes a large tea drink for his throat/singing voice, at least 1 litre of prune juice only, organic if possible, high percentage, no other types of juice. It must be prune juice. Please provide a variety of vegan snacks, including vegan chocolate, salted cashews, and 1 times bag of oranges, clementines or tangerines or blood oranges, organic in capitals. As for fish, he favours enveloped smoked salmon, sardines with crackers, pickled herrings, herrings in vinegar. No pre-cooked herrings with sauce in cans. And this is the kicker. Please respect all of the above and do not miss anything. Like,
It's
you
funny
fucking kidding me,
because
right?
when you started it, of the catering riders, usually the small bit I do treat a bit more seriously. The rest of it is the honey and ginger and the lemon. because I get it. It's for the. But then when you carried on with the rest of it with the sardines and the crackers, I was like, this guy's looked his fucking thing.
And just to be clear, that's probably 4 or 5 pages of catering rider, and I have read you about a third of the page. So that's not the whole thing. That's just what the singer needs in his private dressing room. I
Yeah.
mean, and if you actually put yourself in the position of a festival with 100 plus bands coming for the day, they all got to be fed and watered. Now they don't all have riders, but they're all being fed and watered, and you've got that.
Slap
Like,
bang the middle of it.
imagine being the team in charge of that. It's like, fuck, where are we going to get that sharp metal knife from? It's like every single aspect of it is like, do we own this? Do we own that? Do we own that?
Who's getting sent to carry the sharp metal knife back from Gloucestershire?
Yeah.
Honestly, officer, it's for a singer in a band. Aye, very good, pal. Okay, into the jail you go. Well, just bear with me this week. So I dug at the first two riders that I've ever got, and it's weird because, see, to be honest, these two riders for Agent Speedhorn and Entombed are my first experience of riders, and to this day they're the two that have stuck with me the longest because we've never had the crazy Marilyn Manson style. No one's ever asked us to go and pick out the blue M&Ms, so there's never been anything that's like so outrageous. All the way up to a band like Opeth. Opeth are the biggest band that we've booked. Aye, probably the M creator, Devin Townsend, Ministry would have been, obviously we're at the point of seeing all their riders by that point. So I Opeth are up there with the biggest band. I mean, their headlined your festival, headlining Bloodstock this year. Their rider was absolutely spot on. You know what I mean? They wanted good stuff, but they deserve it. I mean, they're fucking Opeth, you know what I mean? So, but there was nothing outlandish that you're thinking, how the hell are we going to get a fucking dwarf with a chainsaw? You know what I mean? It was like, there was nothing. Like, I mean, you hear these stories for the 80s and 90s fucking rock.
Yeah.
It's like it was about smoked salmon and a nicer vodka or champagne. So these are the two that really stand out to me. And what one will I go for? Right, I can tell. The reason I'm telling you names is because I've had this discussion on a podcast with Raging Speed On about this, so I'm not trying to throw him down. But I'm good friends with Raging Speed On, and Entombed. And sadly, LG is no longer with us, and it's not ever. This is kind of band that they were. They were already operating at this level. So Raging Speed On starts right, and I've taken this. So this must be from a document at the time that I found today in the loft. It starts on arrival. 24 McDonald's cheeseburgers. I mean, it was fucking five of them in the band. And then I said to him years later, because this is how it happened on the day. I'm there. I don't know anything. I've not promoted a single show in my entire life. My first show ever promoting, and I am at the doors of Jill's Rock World. 1,000 people coming in, 14 bands, two of them being Raging Speed On and Entombed. I'm feeling sick. I go to the toilet stall to be sick with like the nerves and anxiety, the pressure of like, shit, this is really happening, because it felt like something fun on the internet until you see Oxford Road filled with like guys coming into this event that you've organised. And I'm saying to this guy Dave Morris, who I think ran the venue or managed it. He said, "Oh, where you going just now?" And I goes, "I have nothing across to McDonald's." He goes, "For what?" I said, "Raging Speed On. I've asked for 24 cheeseburgers." He said, Don't even fucking bother. I guarantee you, if they come in and they ask for the 24 cheeseburgers, I will be fucking stunned." And he was totally right. And that was my first lesson of probably,
Mate, that's incredible.
some of that stuff. So I said to Gordon, so Gordon's on like the Damnation Versus ones have been relisted underneath on YouTube. I think he's like episode 2 or 3. And I start with that. Do you remember the 24 cheeseburgers? He said the weirdest thing about it is that 3 were vegetarian. He said, "I think we were just fucking drunk when we put it together and somebody mentioned cheeseburgers." So that's the start. It doesn't get any, it's not a funny ride or anything, but like 2 large trays of sandwiches pre-packed, dairy tray, cheese, strong cheddar, soft, brie, blue, ham, pickles, rolls, hummus, 2 different types of salad dressings, a large selection of fresh mixed salad items, bowl of fruit, bananas, tangerines, apples, white and green grapes, salt and black pepper, strong tea, coffee. That's just for arrival, right? Then, main meal, 12 times good quality hot meals are a £10 buyout per person. Meal should be well balanced. There should be a vegetarian option, clearly, with them being fucking vegetarian. And then drinks, which is where Raging Speed On really come into their own.
Yeah.
48 bottles of mineral water, 24 cans of Coke, 24 cans of Sprite, 12 cans of Iron Brew, not diet. 2 bottles of lime cordial, Rosie's brand if available. 48 cans, that's not bottles. Or premium strength lager, must be at least 5%. Then choices. I've never really seen this for another band. Like, they actually list their preferences. And their preferences are fucking horrible. First, Grolsch. Second, Carlsberg Expert. Third,
Jesus.
Stella. 24 cans of cider. Scrumpy Jack or Strongbow. One bottle of bourbon whiskey. Jim Beam Black, Jim Beam White, or Jack Daniels. 3 bottles of good quality wine. Must be no less than 12% alcohol volume. 2 red, 1 white. And then a list of fucking... I mean, this is how fucking tag... Blossom Hill or Hardy's. That's what good quality red or white wine. That's what Blossom Hill or fucking Hardy's. Important, all drinks, with the exception of red wine, must be on ice at all times. Ice levels to be checked and topped up hourly. Then at the bottom, the bit that I actually used to take, well, I do still take seriously for the singers. 2 fresh lemons, 1 pot of clear honey, 24 towels, 12, this is my first experience of towels, 24 towels, 12 bath size, 12 medium, 9 times 9, 4 times 9 volt batteries, 3 packs of 20, a 20 pack of cigarette, Marlboro Lights, Benson the Hedges, and Lambert Butler. That's my 23-year-old Gav first experience singing, and I'm not going to read through the.
You're going bust at that point, aren't you? It's like if you get all that, it's like game over.
It's done, and in terms is even more heavy on everything, and then it finishes at the end of that one with 10 postcards with stamps for Europe, and sandwiches for 12 people at the end of the night for the bus. Ham, cheese, and vegetable, no butter. That's okay. So, to be fair, back then, the Raging Speedtorm, we never went across for the 24 cheeseburgers, clearly. But in terms of dressing room, James, and I shit you not, it was crammed. It looked like Greg's fucking sandwich section. It was sandwich full. We had tuna, we had egg, we had fucking ham and tomatoes. They had so much fucking wine in there. They had so much spirit, so many spirits in there. And to be honest, they showed up because I think they played Nottingham or London the night before. They showed up at like, I don't know, 5 o'clock in this wee tiny room, Jilly's Rock World downstairs. Probably had a hot meal, yeah, and then left. The dressing room was just absolutely crammed with all these things that we had packed in year one.
I mean, this is the mad thing, is that all the shit that doesn't get touched, isn't it? I mean, like, I would usually say there's more alcohol on this rider than anyone could possibly drink. Now, with Raging Speedhorn, from what I don't actually know them personally, but from what I know of them, that's probably not true. They probably could see that off, I'm guessing, back in their heyday.
Yes.
But we I asked Sarah, who runs our artist liaison, for some like stories and stuff. And one of the things she said is, like, we got a bottle of Tito's, which is a spirit for Jimmy Eat World. And we couldn't find it anywhere, and it took fucking ages to find it. And then when they'd gone, it was just sat there. And it's like, you've been like, everyone's like running around, we've got to get the Tito. And at the end of it, no one's touched it. And like, that is just like a constant repeating thing about riders. You have all these arguments, and the bands are like, we're there for so many hours. And then they end up being there for a much shorter amount of time. And they're not drinking, they're not eating, they're not drinking. So it's quite ridiculous.
And they never cut back the festival rider, because what the difference, when I was mentioning earlier about the touring shows, there's never a split. You get a guarantee, and it's a raised guarantee at a festival. So it might be twice what you're getting paid to play Bristol, to play Art Tangent, because all the things that we've been into before, that you don't get to see everything, you don't get your exact set length, you don't get everything your own way, and there's no chance of you getting a split at the other side of it. So the fees are higher. So there is no incentive to the band to ever come to the promoter and go, you know what, we're actually going to be in sight for 2 hours. We don't need 8 cases of cider for the 4 of us. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, might as well be there.
Yeah. Well, I can kind of understand that, but it is a bit. Well, again, if you've got 100 bands, it's pretty frustrating. I have talked about Heilung on a previous podcast, but Heilung are so it's so mad that they're worth. This is not the same stuff. This is new stuff. I've gone back to the Heilung rider. I basically got a Heilung rider next to my bed. It's so interesting. So I actually think it's one of the nicest written riders, because some riders are aggressive. Some of them are like, you fucking give us this, or we're going to fuck you up, basically. And they're not nice. Whereas Heilung's is so nice. So it starts off, as a kind reminder, we are 32 people and a small tour dog on the road. We do need some space. However, we will never ask for something that's impossible, overly fancy, or ridiculous. We just need a comfy hangout space, clean showers, healthy food, clean water, and acceptance of our little furry friend. When we are touring, we drive for a very long time to get to you. Please help us relax a little in the few hours we have the possibility to do so. This will make the show 1,000-fold better. Thank you. And then they go on. Food is all about being creative. A fantastic way to experience a new place while traveling is through the sensation of taste. Surprise us with your local traditional food that is a hidden speciality in your area. So basically, then there's this long paragraph about how you can basically give them whatever you want. They're not going to ask you for Italian food when you're in Somerset. But then it goes on to there's a section called Gollum Juice, and it says to sound like we do without losing our voices, we are brewing juice like they did for Gollum, the character in the Lord of the Rings movies. We need exactly is in capitals. We need exactly the following: 1 kilogram of raw organic ginger, 1 kilogram of raw organic honey, 20 limes, fresh organic thyme, water boilers, and a clean table. I mean, 1 kilogram of ginger. Like, that 1 kilogram. Have you felt ginger? It's light as fuck. How much is 1 kilogram? But I quite like that. They're like, it's like Gollum juice. And then the last thing which I quite enjoy from Heilong is they've got, I think I told you on a previous episode how many dressing rooms they have. It's like 7 or something. And they number them. Room 4 is the warrior room. And it says plenty of space in this room. They are warriors. Every performer in this room will be fully body painted in black paint. Please prepare for this! ! It can be messy. So not the right room for a white expensive sofa. So if you actually add all of the shit we're talking about together, imagine being the artist liaison team. It's like,
yeah.
Are you going to read the rider? And if you don't read the rider, this is all the shit that's going to go wrong.
You know what? There's something really wholesome. Because I tell you what, I've held on for probably the best part of 20 years now to whatever it was that turned me on to this industry in the first place, and my love for music. And I know we've joked about it and the whole take the tap off and jump over the thing we are running for the most bit. But I like to take as much of that enthusiasm for what we're doing into the dealings as well, and tell agents that I love their goddamn band, and tell the bands that I love their goddamn band. And when you get something back that's on a human level, exactly what you just read there, it makes you want to do it 10 times more. It makes you want to go find whatever the fuck 1 kilogram of raw ginger looks like. Like, I will find that for Heilong, you know what? Because they sound like fucking incredible humans. You know what I mean? So I get that, whereas you're right, you get some pretty aggressive riders that come through that you're treated the same way, whether you've gave them a shit time in Romania or they've made the best tour of their life in Germany. It's a bit like the next one comes across and there's no human element to it whatsoever. It's just like, do this for us, or we will put. It's always a threat ultimately. Like, we will not play the show. And I mean, you're like, calm down because we couldn't get some carrots. You know what I mean? You're not going to fucking play because I couldn't find carrots. So it's a bit like it's completely unnecessary, and I like that. I love the human touch. I wish there was an example. One band, it was like Evil or Conan. It was a fun band. It was a picture of somebody from Star Wars floating in water. And I remember when I saw it, and it's there for a bit of fun. But we need to do that. We need to do that. And like always happens, when you get closer to the time, and you just go into panic mode about the second drum kit that doesn't fit on the main stage, or suddenly a band's pulled out a bit before Decapitated fucking flights crashed and we need to find a replacement, and all the fun bits that you wanted to do suddenly disappear, and you're in crisis mode and try to keep the festival together. But I love that.
Fun bits are good,
and the fun bits are good, and it keeps it quite interesting, you know, because how exciting is it going and getting a box of Kellogg's fucking muesli for a band? You know what I mean? It's not very. So it's good when you get things that are a bit different, or people. And I love that whole bands that want to come and experience the place as well. I mean, you guys are a much better spot of the world and the local produce down there, and where you're down than an industrial state in Manchester. But if you can get a chance, I mean, we'll talk in a minute just about how we've progressed riders, and you're always trying to learn, because ultimately you're doing that in a field, but largely venues aren't built to be restaurants.
No.
You know what I mean? So we've got 150 artists in there, and they're basically saying, "Can you feed us as if we're in a restaurant?" You're like, that's a challenge. That's a challenge, because even if I give you a fucking beautiful dressing room overlooking the main stage and all the comforts of the world with the mirror and the air conditioning and the fridges, it's still there isn't 10 there isn't a table for 10 sitting in the middle with a waiter, you know what I mean? So it can be difficult to do that for in any circumstance to try and
Yeah.
get a rider, the hot rider especially.
Yeah, it is tricky. Like our I was looking at our costs. So for 2,000 trees, we spend about 10 grand a year on catering riders, but actually, like more than half of that is on the evening hot meal. So that is actually the expensive bit. You'd think it would be like the stupid wine or whatever, but actually it's quite low in number that in the end, even if you're buying a 40 quid bottle of wine for your headliner. Um, really, the hard part is whether you're Damnation or a festival in a field is giving them a decent hot meal is quite
And
challenging.
how do you we've from in our move to Manchester, we've approached it a couple of different ways. How do you tackle the hot meal?
Well, so historically, what we used to do is the food traders would give us food vouchers. We would give them to the artists, and they would use the food traders. But that I was getting quite a lot of feedback from booking agents, basically saying that this is not working anymore. Like if you've got a headliner, if this wasn't from Jimmy World, but if Jimmy World are headlining your festival, they don't want to be, obviously, it goes without saying, they don't want to be going out front to get pizza. But also, they don't really want, the feedback I was getting is headliners don't really want to have to ask someone to be their slave and go and get them food. They actually just want to wander in with their beanie pulled down into catering and just eat their food. So we've now just gone the route of like having a caterer.
Right.
So there is crew catering. You go there, there's a menu for the day. And that's it. And ultimately the choice is way less, but it's just quicker and easier for the artists. And I think that might have been, we've only been doing it 1 year and it went pretty well last year. So that's now our thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
It's a shame. Yeah,
exactly. We tried. We've kind of went in the reverse of that, but it was more to do with the space restrictions than actual the catering thing. So we went. There's a caterer in the place, a guy who does Palmer's catering. His stuff's really nice, and we went to him and we said, right, okay, so it's like 150 hot meals. And he said, I can't remember, was it 10 or 15 quid a plate? I mean, it was expensive by the time it was done, but 10 or 15 quid a plate. And like, okay, with that, you get a carnivore chili, a vegan chili, and then the sides that include like, so you get your naturals, your cheese, and then your vegan cheese and avocado or guacamole, etc., etc. So that was there. And it seemed to work okay. We get no complaints with it, but it was a little bit chaotic. When you go up there, you've got these fancy big executive suites that we use for the dressing rooms for the biggest bands, and then you sort of bend in yourself, and then you go back. Then there's another 8 dressing rooms that we kind of they're small, but the band share, and then at the end we had a small space that we kind of done it, and it just felt a wee bit. And also you'd see in the rider you go through like this is how many vegans we've got, that's how many pescatarians we've got, right? Okay, that's how many carnivores we've got, right? This is going to work. But then what you're not counting on is someone who's not vegan going up to that and going, oh fuck, I actually fancy a wee change. I'll take the vegan one. So you get let's do 100 portions of meat chili and 50 portions of vegan chili, and then by half two, all the vegan chili's done, and you're like, but that would mean that everybody who was vegans went up more than once. No, it wasn't the case. People just fancy trying the vegan chili, which we hadn't. And so then you got like a band coming and saying, look, it's all gone and we'll not do it. So we're going to need a Wagamama's fucking order at £200. And then next thing you know, you've got Just Eat coming as another £200 straight on your catering budget for one band because they're going to get some noodles. So we ditched that one last year and then went with your food trader, exactly what you're saying. But what we do, and I get what you mean about the bands might not want to ask, but we do offer that, sir. So our artist liaison guys will say, look, if you want to give us a shout, we're more than happy to go out and we'll go to the pizza place or whatever, the goat curry or the Greek place. And some of the bands, I mean, that's more your headliners are the biggest bands, but a lot of the bands, I mean, I bumped into the guy from Enslaved who was wondering about like seeing what his options were. A lot of them didn't mind going out. So that's not, it's not like your cast iron success story either. There's still a wee bit of issues with that, and you're not quite sure what's successful and what's not. But that's how we're tackling it currently. But
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose the ideal situation was you throw up another tent. But if we throw up another tent, that's a couple of grand. And then you bring in a caterer, and there's another couple of grand on top of that. And the next thing you know, your catering budget, which for us is maybe 3-4 grand, is now 10 grand. And you're a bit like
Yeah.
That's a hell of a jump. And again, I always felt like you've just landed, you're in the UK. Maybe you fancy a goat curry. You know what I mean? Maybe you fancy a sloppy burger or fucking loaded nachos. If you go with that catering option, like we did in the first year, it's a very limited choice. And then you get a band come up and say, "Oh, you never actually noticed the small print." And there's like three of us don't want to eat onion, and you're like, "Fuck, there's a chili at the door as well." So it felt like that year there was a whole lot of buyouts getting offered on top of what had already been effectively a hot meal paid for.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's a tricky one, but it's a year on year we're just trying to improve it.
I mean, for us, we were literally getting like agents saying to me, look, your artist liaison team's amazing. They're so friendly, they're so on it. The festival vibe's incredible, the production's good. We've basically got no issues with anything. You need to spend more money on your catering and you need to spend more money on your dressing rooms. If you want to go to the bigger level of bands, this is all 2000 trees, not Arc Tangent. If you want to go to the next level of bands in terms of size of headliner, you need to improve these two things, which is basically catering and sort of dressing rooms. So
And you're a bit like, what, does
covered
it
it.
extra 75 grand and no do it?
Yeah, quite. Yeah. So we did that, and I think it's been pretty successful. I mean, when I asked Sarah, who runs our arts liaison, about this, she said to me, I wrote down what she'd said, which was riders are weirdly more than stuff in a dressing room. It's creating a home from home on site in a green field. So it may be cold and raining, and people have been living in a van. So a lot of it is making people feel cared for and looked after, rather than the actual stuff you're giving them.
Yeah.
So she's basically saying like it's not just for some bands it's just about the rider, but for a lot of bands it's like, sometimes you got to give them a hug, or just a smiley face, or maybe they need a plaster. So Sarah, she was saying she's got in her car like a list of like plasters, shoe insoles, paracetamol. She's basically
That
got,
is,
it's like she called it mum stuff when she said it to me. It's like she's basically she can look after the artists. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a much wider than just like here's some beer.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I,
yeah.
I try to be much more mindful of that. Like I was beforehand, you're finishing your 9 to 5, you're jumping in the car, you get down on a Friday night, you're packing up some dress rooms, and then the next day you're getting bands flying in full across the world, some on tour, maybe some coming out for that date, some exclusive, and you're landing. And a lot of people do it, especially at Leeds. You're like, fuck man, it's hard enough to try to find the venue, and then when you're in the venue, it's hard enough to find your way around about the venue. And I started to slowly dawn on me, like, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the artist here, of that angry tour manager's going, because they've just done that 9 hour flight for there, and one of them's lost their baggage, and the guitarist is fucking pissed off, and they were expecting it to be warm, and it's pissing down because it's fucking
Yeah.
November in Leeds. And they're like, I remember one occasion, the it was a tour manager for Agoraphobic Nosebleed, or he played in the Agoraphobic Nosebleed, but he may have been for Pig Destroyer. It was tour manager, and he came in and he was fucking livid. He was livid. He basically had all the travelling, and he got there, and one security guard had sent him in the back entrance, and the other security guard sent him in. So by the time he came into the venue, he was ready for a fight, you know what I mean? And he walked into me, and I'm a bit like, but at that point, I was like, right, whatever problem you've had to this point, it's done. It's over. So let's address all the issues now. And I won't leave your side right now. You've got the fucking, you're the artist liaison fucking gold star version, because whatever you ask me, I just fucking say yes. You know what I mean? Because I understand you're fucking raging. So let's get your dressing room. Let's go and find your artist liaison officer. Let's go. What do you need? And you could see within 10 minutes, he was like, different guy. That's what he needed. He needed somebody to go, I'm going to stop you for getting pissed about this venue for the next 3 hours, and you're going to be able to go and tell the band. Because I mean, there's nothing worse than that when you're the guy responsible. It doesn't matter if you're just the guy that's got the fucking plane tickets for your mate's stag do holiday, and then suddenly, like, where are they? And you're like, fucking, you're the guy with all the pressure, you know what I mean? And that's a tour
Yeah.
manager's life every single minute. Like, you're to blame for everything. You're making this tour work. So I totally agree with what you're saying. It's not just about what Sarah's saying. It's about making sure that within reason, because there's another thing. It's like you ever get that, like, you always hear about how UK versus Europe, and it's like, in Europe is a three-course dinner and a lunch, and
Yeah.
we get treated this, and the accommodation is better, and all the local beers with their friends. Like, how the fuck do you manage that? You know what I mean? Because it's not like we're trying to be tight with the Raiders. It's like,
No.
You have to. It has to be financially viable. You're not just saying, oh, everyone can get 2 litre bottles of Grey Goose if we're all just going to lose money.
Yeah, the financing's different in Europe somehow. They seem to have more money to spend on production, more money to spend on riders, and yeah, we look we look a bit shit in comparison. There's a few bands that I've had over the years where they don't really want to come to the UK. You really have to convince them to come to the UK because they're just not that. They're just like, you don't get treated that well in the UK. Like, it's all a bit rough in it. Well, you know.
But maybe like because when I was doing the previous podcast, that was a recurring question I would ask. And listen, it was very much like 20 years ago. It was fucking rough. I mean, it was like this. There's a pasta in the corner with some tomato sauce, and we'll get you a hostel. You know what I mean? And we're talking for like established touring bands. So
Yeah,
I feel it's got better. Because the truth of the matter is, it has to get better because the bands just don't play your event otherwise, and you need that. You need the bands to come and play your event. So I feel that we will get better. Which brings me on to that point I was going to make about Nina earlier. So you get these bands, and I've been backstage at Hellfest. I know what it
yeah,
looks like at the top of the tree. It's sublime. It's hard to put. It's like going to the circus. You just go. It's like everything's there. The catering is spectacular. The backstage are spectacular. There's tattoos. There's masseuse. There's like you've got everything. I mean, there's no way in the world that an event like Damnation could ever financially compete with that. So I understand if you're at the gates and you've played Hellfest. And I'm sure Vakken's the same, and Grass Pop, and all these big European ones are absolutely fantastic backstage, right? Then you show up at Damnation, and it's okay. You know what I mean? You've got the stuff you ask for in your rider. The people are friendly. You're being looked after. But I mean, it's not blowing your socks off. I mean, you've been at Hellfest, so you're like, it's not blowing my socks off. So you don't really hear it. So you don't hear a complaint, which is the good bit. But you also don't hear about like, oh, that was good, or the catering was. I mean, all you can hope for is no one complains. But it's when you get the smaller bands that are in the smaller regional circuits, or maybe have done Europe, and plenty 50 or 100 people who haven't experienced that. And Nina had that AAA. The only reason I know this story is because she's got her own podcast that I listened to afterwards, and she told it. And she said, "Oh well, I had the AAA, and I thought, well, I might as well take advantage of the experience." And she was like, "It was fucking Disneyland." And she's like, "It was amazing. It was like huge tables full of every sweet you could think of, crisps, fucking pot noodles, fucking pasta pots, your veg trays, your there's a vegan corner with all the vegan stuff in it. It's because I'm sitting there and I've got my plate and Joss Osborne for Electric Wizards filling up his plate beside, and I'm really like, fuck man, that was good to hear. It was good to
yeah.
hear that, you know what, like, and there's a lot of effort and a lot of money and a lot of thought goes into how do we present this catering to bands, and then you've got someone there who's out there touring with a band who's not used to going to the backstage at Hellfest, but like, fuck me, man, this is a lot better than fucking not to pick on Mark's venue, but audio in Glasgow. You know what I mean? Where you get a case of water and a case of cider, and you're like, right, great. I suppose this is what it's like at life at touring this band. Like you go to Damnation, like, oh, this is a level up, and it's you don't hear that with the level of bands that we deal with. So I
And
appreciated Nina making
yeah,
that point.
I think it's worth me saying that there's probably a lot of bands sitting there listening to this being like, what the fuck is he talking about? Arctangent and Trees, it's shit. Because I just want to be clear, when you've got 150 bands, that all this rider stuff we're talking about is not everyone.
Yeah,
But the vast majority of bands are coming in and getting one meal each and a crate of beer, and
yeah,
that's it. And you know, over the years, bands want a crate of beer less and less as sort of alcohol becomes less of a thing, and you got to have your kombucha and your waters and stuff ready. But really, the standard rider for us is a crate of lager and
hot food.
some hot food. Yeah.
Do you know what? It was, fuck, I wish I remembered the thrash band. They played in 2015. Oh, they must have been like they tried to sell me my crate of beer back. I wish I could remember the name. And he goes,
Well, you can
"Oh,"
buy it back off us.
I said, "Oh, we don't drink." And I was like, "Oh, all right, fair enough." Because our standard rider is every band gets access to that spread that I was talking about the Benina. So you get a hot food token you can go and use at the traders outside, and then everyone's got access to that spread if you want to make yourself a Simon. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to overstate it either. I mean, it is boxes of Walker's crisps. and pot noodles and meats and cheeses. It's not like you get in there and it's like, oh my God, it's caviar and champagne. But it's like, it's really supposed to be that everyone can have a bit of whatever they fancy on that day. But as well as that, you get a case of water and you get a case of beer. And then as you go up the ranks, that case of beer becomes 2 cases of beer and a case of cider. And then it's 4 cases of beer and a couple of bottles of wine. And then it's like a branded spirit. And all the way to the top when it starts to get a wee bit more expensive. And that band obviously had that because we just put that into every room. It's not a case of, well, if you don't send us a rider, you still get the same rider. You still get the standard festival catering rider. So they showed us, oh, well, there's a case of Carlsberg, fucking Tenants or something. And this guy, we don't drink. Would you like to buy the case back? And I'm like, you're going to sell me my own beer back to me?
That's incredible. That's a no. That's a hard no, isn't it?
I don't drink beer, so no, fucking ram it.
I think we should let the listeners in, Gav, on our little rider chat because every year I go. Sarah sends me the list of riders, and I go through and like, so I'll be like, yeah, give I don't know, give out the drive-in 75% of whatever they've asked for. Give so and so 25%. Give this band 1 crate of beer and some meal vouchers. And I was going through the riders, and I got on 2,000 Trees. I got to the 2 promoters, 1 pod, and Sarah has written in there 1 bottle of Jack Daniels and some bath towels, which I thought was fucking brilliant. She's obviously heard you.
Have I met Sarah before? I must have walked past Sarah a billion times at these events.
But yeah, I'm sure you have. It makes me think you could probably up your rider requirements, really.
No, I mean, I get Jack Daniels just like that.
That's what you asked for, and you got it. So good.
I'm starting to feel that we're probably going to need some props. I mean, a couple of towels needs to sit on the. I mean, a table for the stage, is that part of the rider? Or is that going to be my tech rider? Didn't it say the tech rider?
Sarah also deals with production, so if you've got tech requirements.
Well, it was you that said to me when you flagged up like about doing this, like we need to make it feel more like a podcasting stage. It was your suggestion to make it more like a podcast.
I've got a team working on, like Dan and his team working on making the stages feel, particularly Arctangent. Last year for me, letting people behind the scenes know the sort of things we talk about. It felt to me like when the podcast talks were happening, it was just the 2 people sat on the stage were a bit lost because you're on a big stage. So we're going to try and make it.
Yeah.
No pressure, Dan, but make it good, mate. It's gonna make it look like a little nice little lounge or something. I don't know. We'll see.
A couple of sofas, Dan. A couple of he's like, mate, you've already got me doing signage, you prick. I'm not fucking.
Mate, one year I did a podcast talk with Sappinen podcast at Trees, and they fucking put deck chairs on the stage. And like, it's the most awkward seats to sit in front of an audience you could possibly imagine. I'm like, I was unsure for the entire hour I was there whether the deck chair was about to collapse. I was
because your other choice is obviously you need to probably sit perched on the edge and just kill. You back with us?
I got a bit excited there, everyone. Sorry, I just ripped my headphone cord out.
Your other choice is you sit at the edge of the deck chair and then just cut off all circulation to your legs.
Yeah.
Basically, stand up, fall straight back down. So, eyes. Well, brilliant. I knew. I was looking forward to this episode, and I'm glad we're doing it because it's fucking. Have you got any outlandish things? I found an Akercott one. I remembered this one for back in the day, and again, this is 2006. So I think the bands have probably just got a wee bit more like, you know what, maybe Humdrum, it was never there. So I'm always up for some of this stuff. If you want to have a bit of fun with it, I'll try my best. In 2006, Dressing Room must have 1 Hammer House of Horror film of the promoter's choice, 1 Gentleman's Magazine, 6 clean towels, I take it for after the Gentleman's Magazine use, 6 pairs of black socks, 1 trouser press, ironing board and iron. They wear suits, or back in the day did. And I was like, you know what? Good for them. I don't remember how much, if any, that was provided at the time, but looking back, like that's why I remembered those riders, because there was something about them that was particularly unique. Have you had any madness for New Year's?
Well, I mean, the usual stuff is socks and pants and postcards and condoms and drugs and cigarettes, isn't it? It's basically like those things are on a lot of riders. Creeper asked for dad jokes. So we did the rounds, and well, Sarah tells me the best dad joke we had was, what did the policeman say to his belly button? You're under arrest.
No. You don't even get you make in fact I'm smiling too much.
um, so yeah, I seem to remember someone asked for robots, like a little robot. There's always there are little funny things that go on riders. Although it might. So I don't know if you want to hear. I did a little bit of research on big artists and what their mad riders are,
Yeah.
and how I do really like when millionaire rock stars completely lose their sense of reality. Do you know what I mean? It's so mad. So Metallica's catering rider for their 2004 tour repeatedly stated in all capitals that it was very important to have bacon available at every meal and throughout the day. So basically, I've seen the rider. It just every so often it will point out again that they must. I don't know why they need bacon, but they did need bacon. Madonna is like there's lots of stories about Madonna, but one of the things she insists on is that all the seats on the toilets must not just be hygienically clean, they must be brand new. So basically, her arse is the first arse to touch the toilet seat, which is a remarkable level of you know, you got to have some ego to do that. But the thing that comes up over and over again, like I said, I did quite a lot of googling on this, is plants. So like famous people like plants. So nearly in all the riders, there's like some sort of foliage. But this one is from Paul McCartney. 6 full and leafy floor plants, but no trees. We want plants that are just as full on the bottom as the top, such as palm bamboo, peace lilies, etc. No tree trunks! Exclamation mark. He really doesn't like tree trunks.
That's not like a trunk.
One large arrangement of white Casablanca lilies with lots of foliage. One long-stemmed arrangement of pale pink and white roses with lots of foliage. One arrangement of freesia. It comes in various colours, so please mix them up. Freesia is a favourite. I mean, if anyone's seen the Get Back documentary and how fucking cool Paul McCartney is, this is so disappointing. Like, there's nothing about that. Why do you care? I don't get it. But I do quite like the last one I've got is quite like how ridiculous Guns N' Roses are. And when they played Leeds Festival in 2002, they closed the backstage to all traffic for over an hour before entering the stage 90 minutes late via a polytunnel. They basically had a polytunnel so like no one could see them. And the Prodigy apparently were really pissed off because they played just before Guns N' Roses, and they weren't allowed to move any of their equipment or anything because Guns N' Roses were. It's basically when they say clear the area, it doesn't matter if you're the Prodigy, you're not allowed there, which is again a remarkably wonderful level of ego, I think.
Aye, and always and just because you reminded me when we talk about plants and drugs. So one band, I'm sure anyone could work it anyway, but one band, very top of the rider. God, I wish I had it in front of me because I don't smoke, so I don't know the terminology when it comes to weed. But I think it said half ounce of weed, the very top of the rider before any fucking tech specs, half ounce of weed, right? And I'm like, hey, as I say, I don't smoke, so but I am from a pretty scummy bit of Glasgow. Getting all your hands in weed wherever I live is probably not that difficult. So within a phone call or two, 1/2 ounce of weed was procured. And it's like I had to take it to Manchester. But this stuff is fucking stinking. I mean, like 6 poly bags, right? Stinking through six, right? My teenage daughter's in the car. My teenage daughter's in the fucking car, and the car is stinking a weed, right? So given the fact that there's no smokers in the family, it's even more pungent than it would be if there was. So my daughter's like, what the fuck? No, she didn't swear, but what's that? And like, what are you going to do? I mean, she's fucking 14. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie about it. I mean, I don't know, a rat must be stuck in the exhaust pipe. So I'm like, okay, we're going to have this conversation.
Yeah.
There's a band who asked for a large quantity of weed, and I'm providing it.
I
So,
mean, we can all guess who this is, right? You've only got. If I'm just looking at Damnation lineups, and I'm thinking, great,
so I'm
I've got
like,
this coming my way, haven't I?
yes, yes. So I'm a bit like, so that's the long and short of it. I don't smoke weed, so that's probably why you haven't smelled it before. And if you have at school, whatever, you already knew, and you're just seeing if I was going to if I was going to try and come up with some sort of long-winded story that about what it is and it's not weed. So, but my God, we don't. We have actually not been asked for that many drugs in the years. And this one, I was a bit like, you know what? Given the stature of the band and the rest of the rest of the rider was relatively light. It was like this is something that's probably important to them. And how difficult can it be? So, that was
Mate,
just me.
if they got you driving down the motorway with half an ounce in various different bags, if you crash your car and you get searched, you're
Suitcases,
being
man.
done for supply at that point.
Oh, fuck, I know, I know. And it's like, when you
Amazing.
get
I love
like, none of that. That story is completely made up. Okay,
it.
completely made up.
That's incredible. We quite regularly get I quite regularly get radio calls during the festival going, "Hi James, so and so's asked for who can we get some weed off?" And it's like, then you're like, "Oh yeah, that stage manager. Well, I think he's, so yeah, without wanting to supply people with drugs, it is a thing in the music industry."
Aye, aye.
I thought that we should probably talk about M&Ms before we finish, because I always used to tell everyone that it was Mariah Carey and the blue M&Ms, but from Googling this a lot, it seems to be that Van Halen
Van Halen.
had no brown M&Ms, no brown M&Ms, Van Halen. So
No, and I know, and I think what this as this as the not the myth goes, it was nothing to do with M&Ms. It was to do with the tour manager then seeing if the M&Ms had been picked
have you
out.
read
That
have you read
they'd
the
read
Bible?
it.
Yeah,
They'd read
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I mean, what side of that's true? What side it's absolutely fucking nutty or not? I suppose you make your own decision, but. Aye, oh man, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun, sir. So
Yeah, good.
that's Riders. I hope that explained any questions you guys have got. By all means, file them in the pages. I mean, we're getting all the questions. The feedback in this podcast has been fucking the interaction. I mean, in the podcast has been phenomenal. I mean, James found the keys to the Facebook account we've got and
Right.
I asked for questions last night. I think there's like 100 responses or something. It's phenomenal. So please keep that up. Anything you want to add to this podcast and not a call to the cops because I'm a mad dealer would be fucking wonderful. So on the record, James, the amazing playlist that we've got that goes in all directions. What have you got for us this week?
Well, I've been a bit too happy recently, so I'm going to go back to my I'm going to return to type here. I'm going to recommend the band Woo. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's WUW.
Right, I
They're
don't know them.
French.
I don't know them.
Um, and the album's called, well, it's called The Orchestra. I mean, it's in French, so L'Orchestra. Um, but basically, they're signed to Pelagic. They are. I've, I've been listening to it more and more. It's like it's a slow burn. The album it's post metal, kind of post metally doom. It really develops, but they're you have to listen to it a lot to get it. I think they are trying to be an orchestra. There's only two of them though, so it's like they're trying to like interpret what an orchestra would be if it was just like a guy on guitar and drums. I don't know. I'm doing a really shit job of explaining this. It's pretentious as fuck, and I love it. um, yeah, I don't know. They've just got this amazingly brilliant understanding of melody and dynamics, and it's really interesting and would fit well on anyone that's booking a Pelagic stage, I think.
There's just a
But
man.
you need more than five bands on there. And yeah, it's it's really great. So the band's called Woo, the album's called The Orchestra, and I don't know what song to recommend. I think they're all called like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You know what? You get good at that for a stretch. You get good at the
Yeah,
fact
I've
that
gone back.
wait, actually, I know you went back to your weird taste in music, but also going back to just no
It
recommending
would
songs
almost
either.
it's almost insulting to Woo to give them to suggest that you do anything other than listen to the entire album as one go.
Right, okay. If you
I'll
happen to
WhatsApp
hate
you.
if you happen to hate that band, but now you've got like 64 minutes of it in the middle of the playlist, please write to James. Aye, okay. Me being true to form. Shells, the band that I recommended or would have booked or would book for the greatest art tangent main stage ever. When we put those stages together, and was it the headliners of the future episode? I
Fuck
think it was.
knows.
I think it was the headliners of the future episode. The 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 reaction that particular band got, 'cause I think it brought back a lot of nostalgic happiness and just how great that band were. And people like, oh shit, they're actually still a band, and there was a possibility you could see them at Art Tangent or Damnation at some point in the future. That would be sign me up. So the Conference of the Birds is the track. There's so many great tracks, but that's just a banger. It's got everything you want for it. It's like a 9 minute sort of sprawling post rock, but it's got trumpets on there and it's got great vocals. It goes, but it's very soft and it gets very heavy. It's got about everything you want from your post rock, almost slash post metal at points. And aye, that'll be a good listen.
Yeah, I haven't listened to them for a long time, so I will looking forward to going back and checking them out. I think we should probably contact them really and give them a little nudge,
Aye,
see
aye.
what's going on.
The big Medi. Let's see what's going on. And I noticed another one that got a really good reaction where people are like, yes, Gav has finally nailed one, James. Modest Mouse is fucking so on the button for
Yeah.
2000 Trees. Because I'm starting to get a better understanding, like when you said like Frightened Rabbit do work, but this other band don't work because what's a crossover into the rock audience? If you go and click that band, what do their fans also play? I think Modest Mouse is my closest equivalent to a Frightened Rabbit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, having now listened to it, I think you're in the right ballpark. Whether or not the fan base, I don't know. Well, there's a few people saying they're up for it, isn't there? So
A few
they
folk.
are the fan base.
They are.
So yeah, they know. So yeah, maybe
Brilliant.
Modest Mouse in 2025.
That would be brilliant. I think the singer, if well, certainly was a bit of a madcap. I'm not. I mean, most of the best singer songwriters are. I'm not sure if he's calmed down a bit now, but that would be another. That's up there with Manchester Orchestra because they are two of my favourite bands for that world. So,
Yeah.
brilliant. Listen, that was a pleasure. I had a lot of fun doing that one, and I will see you next week.
Thanks, mate. Take it easy.